What's up, YouTube? This is InZoneCraft Studios here. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know the game's a few years old and the sequel's been announced last week or something like that, but regardless, I'm going to be doing a review, so hope you enjoy. So anyways, let's get started. Yes, I'm finally doing Breath of the Wild review. I know it's been a while since the game came out, and yeah, the announcement of the sequel happened, but very recently, I finally actually took the game out of the backlog and beat the game. Yeah, and it took me this long. I'm a lazy person. But anyways, let's get straight into the review. The presentation. The presentation, this game is so good. It's essentially Legend of Zelda combined with Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, more. Basically, any open world game. It's an open world game, simply put. But it still uses that Zelda formula. The gameplay is still very similar to Zelda, but we'll get to that later. Honestly speaking, the game presents itself very good. The moment you start the game, it's obvious that this is definitely something brand new and something way more grand than any previous Zelda game beforehand. However, though, it's not gonna be the best thing if the graphics aren't pretty, right? Yeah, I know graphics don't make everything, but hey, it's a Zelda game, and I don't really know what they look like on the Wii U version because who owns a Wii U and who bought the game on the Wii U? Everything just looks so good. The art style is basically similar to that of Wind Waker, although it's a little bit more realistic. It's kind of like as if Wind Waker was kind of mixed in a little bit with Twilight Princess. I mean, it's not like really super dark or anything like that. It's like kind of one of those. It's kind of cartoon-like, but it's also kind of realistic, you know. And graphics-wise, the game's pretty good. Sometimes the frame rate can get a bit weird, specifically the Korok Forest as a prime example. But other than that, there's really not a lot of stuff that goes wrong. The game runs beautifully most of the time, even in handheld mode. So yeah. Next, let's get into the story, which is a little bit of a complaint, because if you played any of the other Zelda games, they've had way bigger stories, at least from what I can tell. But not necessarily with this one. Now look, I get it's an open world game, but it's I wish the story was a little bit better. And that's saying something because I'm usually a Neanderthal who really doesn't even give a crap about the story. Essentially speaking, Hyrule, 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, there was essentially a war between Hyrule and Calamity Ganon. 4 champions from Hyrule ended up getting killed within the fight, along with Link getting wounded, then having to be taken to a rehabilitation shrine, or something like that. And then Zelda essentially has to fight off Calamity Ganon herself, as she's the only one left. But of course she gets kidnapped, because, that's what happens. And essentially, once Link finally wakes up, he goes outside, and you could just avoid the story entirely, but you're gonna want to finish the goal. Essentially, you talk to an old man, and he basically wants you to go to various shrines and get him shrine orbs, because you want to get a paraglider, which essentially will allow you to get off of the plateau in the game and really explore the world as a whole. And once you finally get all those spirit orbs, you then find out that the old man is actually the king of Hyrule. It basically says to Link, please go rescue my daughter and defeat Calamity Ganon, because that's our only hope. And that's pretty much it. There is more story in there in the form of the memories, but we'll get to those a little later. And all in all, the story isn't bad. It's good. For the sequel, I really hope it's way better. Next, let's get into gameplay. Gameplay-wise, it's pretty much Zelda. It's action, combat at its finest. I would say that I think it feels the best in this game. I feel like it's one of those things where it's this game has better gameplay because I feel like the gameplay is just so much more solid. It's much more precise. Everything just works really well. But there are various amount of new things to the gameplay. One of them that's pretty obvious is the stamina wheel. Essentially, if you can run in this game, faster than your normal run speed by holding down B. However, though, you can't do this all the time as your stamina decreases. Once it goes all the way down, you go a lot slower for a little bit. Essentially, you kind of have to know how to use your stamina wheel properly. But another thing is climbing. You can climb in this game. However, though, it is only really on specific times, because if you really try to climb when it rains, it's not very good. And again, we'll get to that when it get to that. But overall, climbing. Essentially, now walls aren't really much of a problem. And once you get enough stamina, you can basically just climb all the way to the top. You don't have to take a ladder, you can just climb up the mountain. I mean, it's just awesome. Because now you're basically not really limited at all. I mean, it's basically a playground. Of course, there are some things that are a little too tall to climb. But the thing is, that's where the spirit orbs come in. Essentially, another thing about the game are the shrines. These are essentially this game's version of the dungeons. Essentially, they're kind of mini dungeons with essentially a few puzzles, and then you go and complete them, you get a shrine orb. And essentially, having 4 of them, you can actually trade them in for an extra heart, or an extra boost to your stamina wheel. I say really cool, and the shrines are really awesome to go around, because it's basically what makes Zelda, because Zelda's about puzzles and stuff like that, right? Well, here you go. I think it's really, really cool. I love the shrines. I really hope they come back in the sequel. Because not only are they just fun, but they also can make for very easy travel points. Because this world is huge. This world is very big. Heck, it's even bigger than Skyrim's from what I've heard. And that's saying something. Getting around definitely is going to take a while, but with shrines basically being around everywhere, it's actually not that bad traveling from point A to point B, even though point B could be a million years away from point A. That's how distance works, right? But back to the gameplay. Essentially, everything feels way better. You have your swords and your bows and all that stuff. However, a new thing that's been added is weapon degradation. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to talk. Essentially, weapon degradation is essentially where your weapons can break. Here's the thing. You are not given a sword and a bow. You essentially are given none of that. You have to actually find various resources. Essentially, you don't start off with any weapons at all. You have to find them out in the wild. And you can hold a various amount of weapons, whether there be swords, axes, or spears, which are essentially the 3 types of main weapons you can hold. However, the thing about them is that they can't be used all the time. They break eventually. I like this concept because it really makes you think a lot harder. And this same thing goes for the bows as well. They can break too eventually. But it's one of those things where it's like, I do like it, but I really wish some of the weapons were a little bit more durable. Other than that, I love this concept. I think it works well because it really makes you have to wonder how you go about a situation. And then you also have the fact that you can't even that enemies don't drop hearts. You essentially are in control of your own health. You essentially can use food or ingredients and basically cook foods. Yeah, you can cook in this game. So there's that as well. Another thing that's brand new are the runes, or whatever they're called. Essentially, you are given this Sheikah slate, which essentially can allow you to do various things. One of them being known as magnesis. Essentially, it allows you to carry various objects from point A to point B. Another one are the bombs, remote bombs, which essentially are what they are, remote bombs. You also have like stasis, which essentially can freeze an object in place, and you can essentially hit it as many times as you want to actually send it going in a different direction. And then there's also cryonis, which essentially allows you to walk on water. Essentially, all these are really cool concepts, and there's even more, but I will leave those up to you to find out. All of the gameplay is superb. However, it's not going to be great if there isn't good controls, and oh my, this game controls like God. Oh my God. This is basically Jesus the game. It controls just right. Not much to say. Then we come into the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack is a little bit harder to talk about because there isn't a lot of songs in the game. Don't get me wrong, the songs that are available are so good. The Hyrule Castle theme, the Calamity Ganon theme, there are some great songs in there. But I wish there was some more. A lot of this music is essentially ambience. And don't get me wrong, that's fine, but I just wish there was a little bit more. Then we get into content, and oh my, this game has content. Essentially speaking, you essentially have so many hours you can use just to play the game. There's so much to do. Because, well, yeah, you can go on the various shrines and you can essentially do a lot more stuff. There's even more than just the shrines and like main story. There's a bunch of side quests, just like the older Zelda games. There's just so much to do, including collecting the Korok seeds as well, which essentially are another collectible game. But yeah, essentially speaking, there's so much to do. For 60 bucks, it really is worth your pickup. And now it's time to finally end this up and basically reveal my final thoughts. I don't know if I like this game more than Wind Waker or not. That's kind of a hard statement to really say because I do still have to beat Wind Waker HD. And don't get me wrong, I will be doing a video on that very soon. However, though, I will say right now, for the time being, this might be one of the best games ever made. I don't think it's necessarily my favorite game of all time, but it's one of those games where it's like, I really have respect for it. And it has every right to have the perfect scores and all that shit. Because it's a perfect game, essentially. Now, on my scale of 0 to 10, I give this game a very solid 9.5 out of 10. So yeah, that was the review. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys agreed with me, let me know in the comment section. And like this video, of course, I'll definitely be picking up Breath of the Wild 2 when that comes out. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Take care.